What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Till Mets Do Us Part, live on YouTube, live on Twitter, just like we are each and every single week, except, of course, for last week when I couldn't be here. It is Hollywood John Sapanaro out in Los Angeles, California, rocking the shades, because that is just what everybody's been saying. It is Matt Ibby Ibanez holding it down back in New Jersey. Ibby, we have a lot of stuff to get into, but before we do, how you feeling, man?
John, I'm doing okay. I'm glad that we're back. Last couple of days was a little rough for me. I was going through a bit of a sinus infection, but I said no matter what, I was going to gut through this. I was going to make this work, and thankfully, my health has turned for the better over the last 24 hours or so. So I'm pumped up to be back as you lean, looking all Hollywood. Trying to be this guy's just big time me now. This guy gets one commercial and he turns into this superstar. No, anyway, if you haven't seen the commercial, check it out. It looks awesome.
I appreciate that. I'm gonna do that every time you're talking this episode. I'm just gonna lean back and just sit in silence. No, I'm not gonna do that. I was just leaning into it because everybody was calling me Hollywood. You were calling me Hollywood. I appreciate it. So many comments coming in already. I apologize for being late. Aunt Rivera. From Subway to Shea saying John looking like The Rock when he turned heel. That is the reference. I always prefer that over the Hollywood Hulk Hogan reference. I loved Hollywood Rock. I thought it was hilarious as an old school wrestling fan. So yeah, I thought that was fantastic.
And because John hates the Hogan reference, in my phone I pasted John's head on Hogan's NWO body when he calls. So just so you know, that's why he doesn't like it.
That's perfect. Listen, everybody watching live, keep those comments coming in. Apologize for not being here last week. Also apologize for being a little late this week. Both of them were my fault. I actually moved last week, so I'm in a new location, new apartment, all that stuff. And then this week, I was doing the most un-Hollywood thing of all time, which was I had to have a piece of furniture that doesn't fit in my apartment picked up by the store and brought back. So it's not all glamour, you guys. It's not all glitz and glamour. It was, hey, can you please take this back because I don't want to pay for it because it doesn't fit. So let's jump into the comments real quick. Say hello to some folks. We got Shay saying,
Shay?
Hey, all, what up? James Dowling, what's going on? Rael, of course, right off the rip. Nice episode name, not reference to our Carlos Beltran situation.
Just so we know, I did not name the episode. Wasn't my call, Rael.
It was me. I did it. Do I have to I'll put the sunglasses back on. I swear I will go full heel this week. James Dowling said, it's just the facts. Replying to Rael. We got Carlos Ortiz saying, what's up, fellow Mets fans? A lot of people checking in. Carlos saying, I think the guys don't start on time just to keep us in suspense. That's exactly it. It's that and not the furniture issue. I promise. I promise. James Dowling getting too big for the show. I see. That's me. Shay, ever since that Apple Music commercial, John's melodic voice broke the internet. It's been hard to keep the show going. Okay. I'm done. I'm done checking in on those. No, you know what? There's still so many funny ones. I can't. I wear my sunglasses at day? ? Oh man, so many good ones. Hello to everybody.
What's up, everyone?
What's up, Aunt Rivera? Active in the comments. Aunt, by the way, we got to get you back on the.
We got to
get you back on the show. Maybe next week or the week after. We'll coordinate when we're not on a live stream. This is surprising. This is surprising. I don't know if he's still here. This is surprising. Okay. I'm just going to leave that up there.
No way.
Saying, hey, John, I know you're
hell out of here.
I'm shocked that this person has popped in. Grant from Jenny Metz. Okay. That's fair. Hello. Welcome to the show, I suppose. I think
we're well aware. I've had good back and forth with Grant. I have the DMs to prove it. If you're still here, Grant, how you doing?
Listen, you know, my beef is over. I was frustrated. Grant is still here. Grant's got the crying with laughter emojis.
There we go.
Maybe you can maybe you can be the mediator and we can facilitate some love here, because sometimes Grant doesn't know this because Grant doesn't know me. Sometimes I have a tendency to run my mouth. So
I'll keep it short and simple. John has a quick trigger on Twitter. Not saying he gets triggered. I'm just saying he's very quick to really come with to turn a phrase, if you will. So if you say something that's a little bit off, I already saw some stuff I'm going to bring up after a couple of things, these past couple of days, I saw him posting things on Twitter. He gets very quick with some things, very passionate. It's one thing John is, as you can see there with the glasses. He's a passionate guy. But yes, in terms of him as a person, he's not all that bad. He's just a little. At times, I'll put it this way: at times on Twitter, he can be just a little abrasive, but he has good intentions.
All right. Well, okay, that's fair, and I appreciate Grant checking in and checking us out. Haha, it's all love. It's funny to me. Okay, so let's jump into the topic of conversation. We've got a few, Ibby. You know what? I'm going to let you pick. I know we named the episode after Carlos Beltran, and that's pretty important, pretty topical. But we also have to talk about the start of spring training coming up in just a few days. A lot of people have reported already. We also have to talk about the Keith Hernandez stuff because who the hell knows what's going on with Keith? So. Dealer's choice. I'm going to be un-Hollywood, and I'm going to let you pick where we go first. I know Rael's going to have some important things to say about what happens with Carlos Beltran. We can either start with that or we can save it. It's up to you.
Actually, I'm going to go completely different than all the things you just mentioned. We will talk about those things, but the number one thing that needs to be said to you, because we never really got a chance to talk about it because we didn't have a show last week, was what are your thoughts on Jeff McNeil?
Oh, yeah. You know what? I forgot we didn't talk about that. So, look, I love Jeff McNeil. Jeff McNeil might be my favorite Met on the team. Like, it's always between McNeil, Lindor, and Alonso. I love all three of them. And on this show, I've said, hey, look, you don't rush out to go and sign Jeff McNeil to a long-term extension because he's the kind of player that you can just ride it out with. He was a late-blooming non-prospect that turned himself into, one of the best hitters in baseball. And with that, you can go one of two ways. You could either jump in because people kept saying you have to sign Alonso, you have to sign McNeil. And I was like, you just can't put them in the same boat. Now, having said that, your counter argument the entire time was always, but I think McNeil's going to be cheaper and easy to get done. And so if that's the case, let's just do it. Let's buy out the arbitration years and let's ride it out. So I was never against it. I want McNeil to be here for a long time. I like Jeff McNeil. My only thing was, I didn't like lumping it in with Alonso because I think they are two very different situations. Alonso, if he stays healthy and if he stays on the Mets, is going to go down holding basically every offensive statistic in franchise history. Home runs, RBIs, blah, 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 blah. He's going to pass everybody. He's going to pass David Wright. It's only a matter of time. He's going to pass Strawberry in like the next 2 years for home runs practically. So I think they're two very different situations. That said, I think the dollar amount is even less than what you predicted a couple weeks ago as a potential re-sign. So for that, or an extension rather, so for that, I'm giddy about it. To have Jeff McNeil locked up for the next several years, being a part of this team, not only is he a great hitter, I like his attitude. I know some people don't. I like that he's got fire. I like that he's got that real just kind of old school tenacity about him. It's obvious that him and Lindor have squashed whatever issues were going on with them. It was great last year, and I think that he's a plus defender in every position that he plays. So I love Jeff McNeil. What are your thoughts?
Well, I went in really in depth on my thoughts, and this is a quick plug and a quick shout out to Ant Rivera, who's in the chat. I was on his show. We did talk about it at length, but to sum up my thoughts, really, I'm with you. Like, it was less than what I had predicted on here. I said I thought $72 million he would sprint to it. The fact that he signed for 50 with a chance for it to get to like 63 and a half, I think the number is. It doesn't shock me in that sense because it made all the sense in the world for him to chase the money now based off of his age. He wouldn't have gotten an offer like this when he was going to be hitting free agency, 33 going on 34 years old. So I never really understood why people were so taken aback almost by the deal because I thought it made sense. And it was a guy looking at the money, looking at his age, looking at his offensive profile, what he provides. I talked about it with Ant at length. He mentioned it as well, talked about how guys who become available in free agency, the guys who get paid provide power. Jeff doesn't provide that. It seems like players like him are becoming a little bit more of the norm, like they're coming back into the game. But at the same time, you still have to jump at your chance for money. And the biggest thing that I put out in a tweet, and I reiterated it on Ant's show, was the fact that he got his money now. He got paid, okay? He is allowed to be Jeff McNeil. He does not have to worry about being anything else. He does not have to worry about adding more power. He does not have to worry about changing his profile in any aspect. From the one outlier season we saw when he was getting too pull happy, trying to hit home runs, all that stuff. doesn't have to do that. You got paid because you played like Jeff McNeil this past season and proved that was the one outlier season. You got paid for what you provided to this point. Keep being Jeff McNeil. Keep being the hit god. Keep being that type of player.
I totally agree. I can't dispute that at all. And like I said, overall, I'm just happy that he's here. I like what he brings to the table. I like the fact that he
definitely
is a different guy. And he's a different kind of player than what we have. I mean, look, in today's baseball, when you're talking 2023 Major League Baseball, if you've got a guy that can hit over 300, and in his case, over 310 and potentially over 320, you're talking about a very rare type of player. So to say the Mets don't have a lot of people like him is kind of a dumb statement, because nobody in baseball has a lot of people like him, because there aren't that many players like him anymore. Right. But I want to see especially what he can do. Ibby, he's the kind of player that beat the shift. Now with the limitations on the shift, I want to see what Jeff McNeil can do to be even better. If you're telling me you can't shift on Jeff McNeil, or you can't shift as aggressively on Jeff McNeil, he's the kind of player, Ibby, he could hit 340. I mean, he's that good in terms of bat control.
Absolutely. And like I remember he joked during that press conference, being asked about the shift and stuff. He was like, I really don't care if guys shifted me or not. I was just going to hit the ball where they weren't. So now that you're eliminating that aspect of the game, I think he can be a consistent 300 hitter. I don't know if his the Zips projections had him over 300 this year. I wasn't sure, but either way, I look at it and I say, I think that this is a guy over the duration of this contract where it can age properly based off of his profile, where it's not going to be viewed as a sunk cost and things like that. God forbid injury with outstanding. But I think it's something that can age properly, and it made a lot of sense. And like I said, a player like that, a glue guy like that, is something that any good team has, and I'm happy that Jeff's going to be here for the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you at all. Jump back into the comments here. Some of them I just have to shout out because they're hilarious. Aunt Rivera killing it today in the comments. Jenny versus Johnny Hollywood at WrestleMania, hilarious. Even Grant likes that. That's hilarious. That's a good comment. I didn't want to bring that back up, but I missed it before. Carlos asking you, Ibby, where'd you get that hat? I need that in my life. So if you want to shout out where you got it from, now's a good time to do that.
I saw this hat at the Citi Field team store. They had it. It was exclusive there. I saw them post it one time. I said, next time I go to a game, I have to get it. I found it. I got it. I paid the ridiculous price that it was, but I like to call it my Mets good vibes hat, because who doesn't think Mr. Met wearing glasses, smiling is all about good vibes? And we are on the precipice of pitchers and catchers and spring training around the bend and Mets baseball being back. So I figured, let's break out the good vibes hat. So Mets team store, go there, buy it.
Just vibes, baby. Me and Mr. Met.
That's
just
it.
Vibes all day.
That's it.
I don't know what it is. I introduced these sunglasses as a prop, and now they've come up like 12 times. But I have to stop doing it because it's really absurd. As we jump back into the comments, we have a lot of people agreeing, and we want to hear what you guys have to think about the Jeff McNeil deal. A lot of people weighing in already. James Dowling saying good deal all around. Shay saying, I like that McNeil got an extension. I think he holds down second base until Jet Williams comes up. Honestly, I think that's fair.
Agreed.
Carlos Ortiz just saying McNeil is the man. I totally agree with that.
Hard to disagree.
Stevie Mack with a good one. Squirrel greater than rats and raccoons. Absolutely true.
That is true.
And then we've got Baseball and BBQ mentioning something good. I forgot because I always forget. Don't forget to click that thumbs up if you're watching us. Help with the algorithm and all that fun stuff.
Please
and then
so. Doing good so far. Yeah.
James Dowling, another homegrown player staying at home, and that's another important bit. Ibby. This is something that we don't see. We didn't see a lot of with the Wilpons. Obviously, this is something where we haven't seen the Mets be able to kind of commit the way that we all hate on the Braves for doing it, but we haven't seen the Mets do it under the Wilpons because money was always a factor. Hey, don't pay guys early because if it doesn't work out, what are we going to do? We're not going to be able to pay anybody else. We're screwed. Those days are done. This is just another affirmation of that. I don't even want to get into it from that perspective, but it is just so great to see that they are rewarding success. They are rewarding loyalty in a way. They're rewarding guys who want to stay by giving them deals to stay that I think are fair market value. Look, if you're Brandon Nimmo and you went to free agency as the second best outfielder on the market, you're going to get paid. If you're Jeff McNeil and you're not going to be a free agent until you're almost 35 years old, and you want to make life-changing money in the form of 50 some odd $1 million,
take it.
You're going to take it. You're going to take it and go. So I love all of that. And, I think it's a perfect time to switch gears. And you know what, Ibby, let's go here next, because this is something interesting to me. Ant Rivera saying there's no manager I'd rather have with the adjustments to the rules than Buck Showalter. And he spoke about that at length today. He talked about the changes to the bases. He talked about how, they had to make sure that they had the right bases there when they had like their sliding pit set up so that guys can get their early slide work in. Talking about how they're going to go through spring training and adjust to things like the pitch clock, blah, blah, blah. I think Buck is a master at this. And honestly, I don't know. There's probably few people you can put at that level with him, guys like Terry Francona and stuff like that. I'm just happy it's not Mickey fucking Callaway, to be honest, or Louis Rojas.
Yes, it is. It's a new day when you can actually have confidence in your manager. And I love, like, when Buck first came in, like when he first got to spring training and seeing the facility and everything, like one of the first things he did was he wanted everything to mimic Citi Field. He says, that's where we play. The things here should mimic that. So I want to make sure that everything we do here is similar to when we were actually at home. So doing things like that. So yeah, it doesn't shock me that he wants to make sure that everything is up to standard, everything that is new, and so that they can work with and get used to and make sure that they're getting in their proper reps. So yes, having anyone like when you just said, like, who else could you possibly say? The first person I said was maybe only Terry Franco, and then you said it because those are the guys you think of when it's like pure baseball guys, someone that you can trust. And I think those are two of the best.
And maybe Madden, but the bloom's a little bit off the rose with Joe Madden after the stuff in Anaheim and stuff like that. But listen, the guy knows baseball, and the guy knows. I think he's proven to be a very adaptive kind of guy. Oh, and another guy from Tampa comes to mind, Kevin Cash. Kevin Cash just so savvy, really on top of it. Yeah, nobody does more with less than Kevin Cash. So look, I'm excited to see some of these things. We're thinking about having a sort of new rules episode coming up as we get a little closer to spring training. It's something Ibby and I thought about doing right when the new rule changes were announced, and we thought it would be better and fresher if we can hold it back until like closer to the start of the season. So there's a couple people that aren't necessarily Mets centric that we want to bring in and potentially talk about that. So keep your eyes out for that. I'm sure we will promote it and everything, but a couple past guests where we can kind of talk about what this means for the landscape of baseball. And yes, of course, what it means for our New York Mets. Ibby, all of that said, another big change coming to the Mets this year is the massive video board that I think you can see from fucking outer space. I don't know what's going on with this video board, but it looks like it's going to be insanely large. Of course, then Steve Cohen also makes comments about what they're going to do with some of the property around Citi Field as they try to build up that area. And then with all of that, with the video board, that right field fence moving in another 8 feet. And that's just another testament to, look, I know David Wright doesn't play here anymore, but David Wright signed a big extension to stay with the Mets, and then the Wilpons built a ballpark that literally he could not hit him.
Took away everything from him.
They took away everything. They took his right center field power away. They built a park for Jose Reyes and then let him walk. That's what the Wilpons did. So finally, here we are, 17 years later, and now the right field fence has been moved in like 4 different times. And, if only we had David Wright back.
Oh my God. Yeah. You're just bringing up all these wounds that I thought were closed. You're just ripping them open again.
You know what? It's because I'm a heel today. It's because
you got to be that guy. Those damn shades. I've seen them more than I thought I was going to be seeing them.
Yeah. No, it's happening. Yes,
it's in terms of the video board. Mickey Callaway, well, you don't want to be associated.
No, I don't actually. I want to take them off. I don't want to be associated with anything Mickey Callaway, baseball or non-baseball related.
But yeah, in terms of, I still have to watch the entirety. I saw like the first 15 minutes of the Steve Cohen and Howie Rose interview, which was really cool. And I always love seeing, Steve Cohen just showing that he is personable and talking with other Mets personalities. So seeing Howie in front of that is always a cool thing. But yeah, the video board itself, talking about the new amenities amongst the park is always a fun time, because a lot of us try to get out to the park as many times as we can throughout a given year. And you like, whether it's trying the new foods or seeing the new things out there. So yes, this video board, according to him, has all the new technology and all the latest, and it's going to be huge, and you're going to be able to see it, like you said, basically from space or whatever. So yeah, anything to make the park that much more fun to be at is always positive to me.
And something like the video board is, how would you put it? It's a great addition for the on the field product, right? Like, one of the critiques people always talk about when they talk about baseball or sports in general nowadays, but specifically baseball, because there's so much downtime, is that people sit there and go, well, everything distracts from the game. This thing out in center field distracts from the game. This thing distracts from the game. All this stuff over and over again. But the video board is a nice kind of exception to that, because those bells and whistles help. I've had the privilege of working in some venues that have massive video boards. The one in Sydney, Australia comes to mind. The one in Jacksonville. The boards in Jacksonville are actually bigger together than the one in Arlington, where the Dallas Cowboys play. But the one in Dallas is the biggest, like, center hung board in the middle of a stadium. And I'm going to see that for the first time coming up in a couple weeks when I go to Dallas. But, all that stuff is so awesome from somebody who works in the live event space and works at these stadiums. Like, there's nothing wrong, Ibby, with a new video board, a bigger bells and whistles, showing more stuff. And whether you're using it for advanced statistics, as alongside of the common statistics, whether you're using it for, video replay stuff, whether you're using it for that dumb stuff they do in between innings, whatever it is, I'm just excited to see it. And I'm excited to have an owner. Again, it speaks to Steve Cohen more than anything else, who's willing to embrace what this stuff is and what this stuff should be, and how to maximize the fan experience, and, saying money doesn't matter. And obviously the Mets are going to get money from Samsung, and it's a partnership deal, and who knows, who's paying for what or whatever. But, listen, part of the problem with Shea Stadium, we all love Shea Stadium, was that it was built to be cookie cutter. And within a few years of being built, it was obsolete. We talk about it for those of us who are Mets and Jets and Giants fans, rather. We look at it, and you go to MetLife Stadium, it's like the worst stadium money could buy. You look at stadiums that came out a few years before it, and certainly every stadium that's come out
for
since,
the same price,
or for the same price, or a million times better.
Yeah.
So, I think Steve Cohen realizing, hey, look, Citi Field is beautiful. Citi Field is a ballpark that has staying power. Citi Field is one of the few things the Wolpons actually got right, even though they didn't get some things right, like the color of the walls and the distance of the walls and the No Mets Hall of Fame. The actual structure of the building, I think they did a lot of stuff right there. And even they started to change some of it when they changed the color of the walls and the Shea Bridge and all that stuff. But Steve Cohen realizes, okay, what's next? How do we make this better? How do we continue to grow this? How do we continue to advance this? So, I think that stuff is important. I'm going to jump back into the comments real quick. Carlos Ortiz saying, Uncle Stevie said he couldn't see the board. Yeah, probably couldn't see it from his penthouse in Manhattan. So he was like, let me build one and make sure I can just see clear over Central Park. We got a few more comments coming in. I'm going to go back in there. Let's see who we got. I scrolled right past it because I'm an idiot. Carlos Ortiz saying, Buck knows baseball better than the umps. That's fair. Shay saying, hashtag heel John opening wounds. I don't know if that's that's a hashtag I want to be a part of, but maybe. Aunt Rivera, the Wolpons, Callaway, Rojas, names mentioned in one episode. And then James Dowling seconding that. Solid start to the episode with those names flying around. So,
my God.
Listen, sometimes you got to. It's all part of our sordid history, Mets fans. It's all a part of the history. Ibby, from an on-field perspective, how do you think this new, the fence moving in 8 feet, how do you think that's going to affect the Mets? Positively, negatively, team built on pitching, elite closer who had at one point a penchant for giving up a home run in a big spot. So I think there's positives and negatives to the walls moving in about 8 feet.
I mean, I would have to look deeper into the numbers in terms of like balls that go off of like what certain pitchers are more privy to giving up. But in terms of look, there's going to be positive and negatives from both sides, however you really want to slice it. But look, I look at it as for a lot of people that were bitching and moaning about lack of power and things needed. Here you go. About needing more things in terms of the power department. I think that this is something that can actually help Whether it's like in the comments, whether it's Vogelback, whether it is Brandon Nimmo putting a little more power into some things, Jeff McNeil as well. Look, I think that you're going to see some balls travel out a lot easier than obviously in the past. And I think that's a good thing for this team because it is something that was lacking in terms of the long ball. So, getting that is a good thing. But yes, you might see some times where you think maybe something, is like a chip shot that should be caught off of a Scherzer fastball on the outside corner to a righty, and then he flicks it out. Like, look, that's baseball. Like, there's nothing you can do. This isn't going to be Great American Ballpark. This isn't going to be Yankee Stadium. Like, it's not going to be like that. But just understand that there's going to be, it won't be. It's like there's going to be give and go. There's going to be good and bad or whatever. So, just getting used to it's going to be the biggest thing. That's all.
Yeah, I don't. Look, it's going to affect the game, right? You move in the walls, it's always going to affect the game. But I'm with you. I think it's going to help. It's going to hurt. At times, we're going to, in the first 2 months of the season, it's going to be talked about. If a pitcher gives up a big home run that cost the Mets the game, it's going to be like, well, that wouldn't have went out in the old dimensions. After a couple months, people are going to forget about it. Next year, the season after that, people are going to forget about it. It's going to go by the wayside. Everybody talked about how unfair Citi Field was when they first built it. They moved in the fences. Oh my God, look what they're doing. They're moving in the fences. It was a big topic of conversation. And now it's just like, oh, Citi Field, it plays how it plays. Like, so, I think all that stuff is a conversation until it doesn't. Carlos Ramos going full heel now, embracing it. And Vogelback needs to swing the bat before he hits anything.
Man.
Yeah. Listen, sometimes you got to go hard in the paint. I get it.
Yeah. It's true.
But yeah, I think it'll affect it, but I don't think it's like this earth-shattering situation. I think we're going to see it affected in some ways, and then we're going to see it go away.
How about the fact that, look, I know sometimes guys wear shirts that might be a little bit too tight, but it looks as though Brandon Nimmo's got some muscle to him now after he got paid that big contract. He's ready to put out 20, 25 home runs with those shortened fences now. So, if there's one thing I can say about Brandon Nimmo.
Did Brandon Nimmo use some of that contract to go into the machine that Captain America went into? Because holy shit.
Like the guy looks good, but also, I think this also proves, people, you're not out of shape. You're just poor. Remember that. You're not out of shape. You're just poor. Because you see a lot of these guys, and I was talking with a coworker today about this, another Met fan. He was like, did you see Nimmo? I was like, look, you're not poor. You're not out of shape. You're just poor. Like, but he's like, the guy was making millions prior. I'm like, I get that. But at the same time, when you get paid a shit ton of money, like these guys get, you see other athletes when they get, otherworldly type of cash, how they dump that into their nutrition and their bodies and the places and people that they can work out with, like all those different things, like it matters. And I think when you see Brandon Nimmo, you picture him as like that little doughy kid who came up in 2011, and now you look at him now in 2023. It's like, well, this guy is like, now he's finally putting himself together. And look, I also think he wants to live up to his contract, so come in looking good, ready to play ball. It's a good thing.
Yeah,
25 homers. Let's go.
Carlos Ortiz saying, I hope he didn't use the same spray that Tatis used. No, what he used was, it's called Super Soldier Serum. You can watch it in the MCU or read all about it in your local comic book store. Shay saying, as long as Nimmo's legs are as jacked as his arms because he needs to steal more bases, hopefully. Listen, I will say, if he hits 25 home runs, he can steal as few bases as he wants. Like he's a different kind of player if he does that. If Nimmo's going to hit, if Nimmo's going to lead off and hit 12 to 15 home runs, which has been the range that he's been in for most of his Mets career, outside of that 1 year where I think he hit 18 or 20.
Right. It was 18.
If he's hitting 12 to 15, he's got to steal more bases. If he's going to hit 20 to 25, he can get away with stealing less, even as a leadoff hitter, because his eye is as good as it is, and he is fast once he gets on base. So, look, I think there is room for Nimmo to grow. Physically, obviously, we've seen it right before our eyes, but no, there's room for him to grow as a player. And I think he either needs to grow in one of those directions, stealing more bases or hitting for more power. If he ever did both, well, I mean, come on. Now we're talking
I think he did mention something recently. Might have been when he was walking in, like just talking about different things. He mentioned how one aspect of his game was like, look, I think I got to work on the steals and with the bigger bags. Now he's thinking this could be an area where I can actually improve. So yeah, even if he became even if he was a 15-15 guy, I think that's a big win based off of his eye and everything. Like, he had 15 homers, 15. Look, we're used to him stealing like what? 4, 5, 8 back. Like, if you're lucky. So if he became 15-15, it's a giant improvement. Plus his eye, getting on base in general, more opportunities. So there's a lot where he can actually grow still, which is why I never had an issue with the contract that he got.
Carlos Ortiz saying Nimmo has a great eye. That sounds, when you just say it like that, when you see it written, it sounds sexual. It does. Like, he has a great eye. Hey, nice eye. Hey, Brandon Nimmo. Nice eye. I don't know why I did that.
When you say it like that, ooh.
I don't know, man. I'm feeling weird. Maybe it's the new apartment. Maybe it's the new chair. It's comfy. It moves around. I don't know what it is. I don't know.
You're solo in this apartment? You're solo?
Oh, yeah. For everybody who's watching this, I used to have 2 roommates. I had a pretty big apartment. It's not like we were sharing a bed, but I had 2 roommates. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment. Now I have a much smaller space that is just for me, but it is absolutely fantastic. But one thing that's driving me nuts is right there. You could see my fuse box. That will be covered the next time we record. I'm going to, I don't have any art on the wall, but I will put something behind me directly because this is going to be the spot I record from. And also I have to put something. I know you have to get to fuse boxes. Like, I understand the concept, but I have to cover that because it looks terrible. So I'm going to put something on top of it that I can take off of whenever I need to access that. Nobody cares about this but me, not even you. I can tell, quite frankly, and that's fair. Carlos Ramos saying, if Nimmo starts stealing bases, it's over, guys. With no shift rule, we'll be scoring lots more runs. I totally agree with that. Look, we're a little bit over the 30-minute mark. I think now's a good time to take a break. We'll come back. We're going to talk about Keith Hernandez. I'm sure that's going to be a big topic of conversation. And we're going to talk about the Carlos Beltran stuff. And Ibby, in a way, we've kind of saved, I think, the best for last because we've got some of this house cleaning stuff out of the way, some of these shorter conversations. I think this next 2 topics will kind of dominate the rest of this as we go. So if you're watching live, it is just a quick ad spot that we have to do for the audio version of this show. We'll be back in about 10 seconds. It's John Sapanaro. It's Matt Ibby Ibanez. Till Mets do us part. Live on Twitter, live on YouTube. We'll be right back. Yo, just like that, we are back. Till Mets do us part, live on Twitter, live on YouTube. You know how we do. It's John Sapanaro, Matt Ibby Ibanez. If you're watching live, it's the best way to interact with the show. Your comments on YouTube come in real time. The comments on Twitter, quite frankly, I don't know where they go. I don't know what happens to them. Sometimes people say to me, I've been commenting, but you're not acknowledging it. And then I go look on Twitter and it's not there. I don't know if it's live only. Listen, Twitter's weird. Twitter's been weird. Twitter's been fledgling. It's only gotten weirder since Elon Musk bought it. I don't know how to use it. I'm not really sure.
Is your Twitter been like screwed up a lot lately? Because mine's been awful. Like, I can't find anything. A lot of the people that I follow, I'm not seeing things. Like, it's been frustrating because this is like the time I want to get as much information as I can, and I can't find anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I liked Twitter better years ago before there was like the algorithm the way that it is now. I think unlike TikTok, unlike Instagram, unlike whatever, pick your social media platform of your choice. Unlike those, I think Twitter works better when it's sequential. I don't like when stuff on Twitter gets like, oh, this gets filtered, this gets highlighted, this gets pushed to the top. And I understand that's how all the algorithms on all these social channels work now, but I do think that Twitter, because it's news, because it's up to the minute, because people get sports updates and life updates, you should be able to log on and see the most recent things all the time. Yes. That's how I would prefer to use it. But anyway, that's probably not what we're going to talk about here in the second half. Hit that like button. Big thumbs up for all this stuff.
Thumb the channel too.
Yes, and thumb the channel, subscribe, turn those notifications on. All of that stuff will help us. Baseball and BBQ saying cover it with a Mets poster. I actually do have a framed Mets picture that is the perfect size that is going to cover that. That's exactly what it's going to do. Carlos Ortiz saying my fuse has a pick covering my fuse box. And then I think realized what he said because he goes, my last comment is redundant. Yeah, I think it does. That's hilarious. Grant still in the comments helping out. He said you just got to switch your preferences from most relevant tweets to latest tweets. So there you go.
Is that
one
still
day
an option,
I'm going to do that. I'm sure it is.
I know that, like, the thing that's bothering me as I'm looking at it now, it's like you have the For You and then you have the following, but like the For You is only in terms of Like it's like everything that you follow, but it's like completely. It could be something that was posted 3 minutes ago, 6 hours ago, a day ago, 3 days ago. It's like this, and then you go to your following, and then that kind of gives you a little bit of a better sequential breakdown. But yeah, it's annoying.
I don't know. It seems like it's a settings thing, again, based on what Grant is saying here. If it's in your preferences, it's probably in the settings. Oh, yeah. Following up, hold on. Yeah, for you is mad annoying. Yeah, it is. It's like, dude, if it's so for me, how is it this inaccurate? I don't understand. Why do I hate it? It's supposed to be for me. Your phone is supposed to know everything about you. Okay. Your phone knows more about you than any person living or dead will ever know about you. And it gets it wrong all the time on Twitter. Anyway, I digress. Ibby, let's dive into this first with the Keith Hernandez stuff. Okay. Yes. What is going on with Keith? There's been, people are speculating now, running wild because they're like, does Keith want to even be back? Is Keith done? Keith seems more exasperated. Does he just want like a big amount of money for his last contract? But then the other two guys in the booth, Ron and Gary, have said before in the past, they're not going to go out unless they all go out together. So that would buck that trend. So what's your feelings on this Keith stuff? Is he going to be back or will the Wilpons fuck us one final time?
I refuse to believe that the Wilpons will be able to fuck us one last time with Steve Cohen in charge, regardless of this being an SNY issue. I look at this and I say, I think Keith, number one, I don't think Keith wants anything to do with spring training. That's number one. So drag this out as long as you want. Take your time. I don't think he wants anything to do with it. Granted, he'd rather be in Florida than cold New York, but I don't think he wants to do spring training. So let's drag this out a little bit longer and see, what I can get out of this. Do I think he wants more money for less games? Probably does. And look, am I going to fault the guy
for that money, man? I
feel like it's to the point where it's like, I think Mets fans, and I think SNY should know this by now as well. Like when you see that, the Mets are facing Milwaukee on a Wednesday, like, do I expect Keith to be there? No. I don't. Are the Mets facing the Cardinals? Yeah, Keith's going to be there. Are the Mets facing the Marlins? Keith will be there because it's in Florida, so he'll want to go. Is he going to want to go to these random places, especially now with how the schedule is going to be laid out and playing all these different teams equal amounts of times? Like, I think he's probably worried about the travel in that sense a little bit. So I really think this comes down to waiting it out as long as he can to try and, push the hand almost of SNY to basically say, we're not going to bring you back and we're going to hire or put Todd Zeal in this spot instead of whoever they choose to go with, Jerry Bledsoe, like whatever they want to do. But I have
I don't like Zeal calling games, by the way. I don't mean to disparage Zeal. He's better in the studio. I know that's not going to happen, but
I agree with that too. I just think this is going to be something that's dragged out because I don't think Keith wants to exert more energy than he needs to in terms of actually going to work. But more power to him. You want to get that money. But I just have a hard time seeing it where they break the record of being together and then gets his number retired and all this great stuff. And then all of a sudden it's just going to be, you're never going to see Keith again. Like that's the point that I get. It's like, I don't think they're going to let that happen. And when I say they, I mean, I don't think Steve Cohen is going to allow it to happen, even though this is an SNY thing. He doesn't own SNY. I understand that, but I have a feeling that this will eventually get figured out to some extent. I think it's just going to get dragged out a little bit longer.
I tend to agree with you. I'm going to jump back into the comments here. This is my favorite typo. It happens a lot to me and anybody who's a fan of the Mets, I'm sure. But it's happened to Carlos a bunch of times so far. The Wilsons have something against him. It's the fucking Wilsons, man. I don't know who they are, but when I find out who they are, I swear to God, I'm taking them all down. Obviously, he means the Wilpons, and it autocorrects all the time.
Every time.
Carlos Ramos now saying Cohen needs to acquire SNY. It's the only solution. They cover the Yankees now. It's just ridiculous. I do think it is weird. Cohen offered to buy SNY. The Wilpons didn't want to sell him SNY. Why? Because SNY makes money. Now, at the time, it made sense. Hang on to the thing that makes money while you're also getting $2.4 billion in hand. However, Ibby, I think they missed their window to sell it to him, because I think at any point over the last couple of years, he would have re-engaged talks. But now, where the deal is coming up, I think in the next 2 years, he can, 1, start his own network, 2, go to another network. I think what the Wilpons are doing, they're kind of the Angels sitting on Shohei Ohtani. Like, that's what they're doing. There's a time to move him, and there's a time to not move him where you don't get anything. So I think that's what the Wilpons have done, or excuse me, the Wilsons. I think that they've overplayed their hand a little bit. And it's probably going to come back to bite them, because, look, when you're in the final year of this deal, Cohen might come back and say, hey, remember when I tried to buy SNY and the Mets for $4 billion and you said no, and you just sold me the team? Well, guess what? I'll still buy it, but now it's only $1 billion. You know what I mean? And we're still talking about a ton of money, right? But he's going to have more leverage the longer this goes.
I also think that they missed their window. And look, I could be way off on this, but just the ever-changing landscape of television, it just seems as though, now I don't know what the price point is for a lot of the other RSNs, but it just seems like the way TV's going, that they're not as valued as they once were a handful of years ago. So in that case, the Wilpons or the Wilsons, whatever you want to call them, might have missed their window to get that money.
The Wilsons, officially. Aunt Rivera says on this show, they are the Wilsons. I have spoken.
So well, screw the Wilsons, all right? I hope they don't get a goddamn dime. They've made enough money, or lost enough money, or didn't spend enough money. Done with them. But yeah, I think that they did miss their window in that sense of really, truly cashing in. Because when you look at it, $2.4 billion for the Mets could have been $4 billion all encompassing if you just threw SNY in now. And I don't think you're going to come close to that $4 billion total if this does run up. So I think you kind of lost yourself there. But that's classic Wilsons. They just wanted to make sure that they squeezed every single dollar out of something that they can before it eventually dies.
The Wilsons are like, if you ever watch Shark Tank, or you find out this stuff.
Love Shark Tank.
Yeah, there's always the story of the guy or girl, I say guy, non-gender specific. There's always the story of the person who doesn't take the equity and then finds out later that they could have invested in Under Armour, right? The most famous one. Yeah, the most famous one, I think, is probably John Madden, rest in peace, where, EA Sports was this upstart company, and he was like, look, if you want to use my likeness and my image, you have to give me $50,000. And they were like, look, we don't have 50 grand. Why don't we just give you a bunch of equity in EA? And he was like, I don't know what Electronic Arts is. I don't know what video games are. If you want to use my likeness, you got to give me $50,000. They raised all this money to get him $50,000 liquid. And he has had no equity in the stake of Madden or EA Sports or anything like that. And that's a miss. On the flip side of it, when Priceline came out and they had William Shatner, they were like, what's your appearance fee? And he was like, it's X amount of dollars, or you can give me equity in the company. They gave him the equity in the company, and he made so much money that they had to buy him out because his shares were worth so much money that they couldn't. It was untenable. They're like, okay, Will, listen, we love you, but we can't pay you $700 million to do commercials. I'm making that number up, but that's how much, it became so much money. They were like, no one would pay this for you to be the face of this on TV and on the internet and stuff like that. So, anyway, I say all that because I think the Wilsons are the classic case of we're not taking equity. We want all the money. And it's look, even if the network sells for $1 billion, I understand that's more money than any of us watching this or listening to this are ever going to see in our lives combined, more than likely. Yes. But it's still a significant amount of money less than what they would have gotten if they would have just sold it right off the rip. So I just think they're absolutely dumb. Nothing they do surprises me. It's completely foolish. I do want to jump back in. This is kind of hilarious. It's old news now, but Grant said, yeah, for you is mad annoying. And then followed it up by saying, if I'm not following you, I don't want to see your tweets. I see John's tweets and I don't want to. That is fucking funny. And then he followed it up by saying, I'm just messing around. Honestly, I'm a good sport, man. That's funny. That was good. That was absolutely good. And then we've got some other folks here saying maybe Keith is trying to get Hall of Fame money. I would not be surprised. He absolutely should. And then, here's an interesting one from Aunt Rivera also. because I think it's important, Ibby, and nobody wants to talk about this, and it's a weird day to do it, but it's the off season, and who cares? So I'm going to just bring this up. He says they need to start thinking of replacements, if not now, but soon. I think that's a fair sentiment that nobody wants to hear, whether it's on the radio side or the TV side. These guys do great work. They're legends. I think a lot of this is coming to a head now because of the Howie Rose tweet from a couple days ago where, he's got a guy who's 26 and a guy who's 23. And it's like, look, Howie Rose is a legend. I would love to have Howie on this show. I would love to talk to him about it. But I do think it'd be like there's an entire generation of people that were skipped over for these jobs because people have had these jobs forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Now, granted, Gary Cohen, he made the move from radio to TV. It's different. You have to put your time in and pay your dues. I'm not taking away anything from these guys, but I do think that like the days of, Bob Uecker having a job until he's 90 and Vince Scully having a job until he's 97 or whatever, I don't know if that's necessarily good for baseball at the end of the day. Like, we all like having these guys come back, but like there were some moments, legendary as he was, when Ralph Kiner would come back in the booth.
It was rough.
Oh, man.
Yeah. As he got a little bit older and a little bit longer in the tooth.
I don't want to be that guy, but it was it's going to happen to all of us. But like,
no, I get that. And look, I'm in that group of I can't picture watching Mets games without Gary Cohen, like to that point. But yeah, I get that you have to start at least putting out feelers or like at least, looking at the landscape in general. And, we can put it anyway. Like if Steve Cohen does end up getting the rights to SNY or if the Mets go elsewhere for television and what they want to do with their booth, like in the long run, if there's someone that becomes available and they're saying like this is the best guy to have for this job, then Steve Cohen will just go out and get said guy. Like we might not know who that guy is, could be on a different team right now. Who knows? I expect them to have the top line people doing that job. At the moment, we have the top line people doing the job.
I would agree.
So it is something that you have to definitely look ahead for. Because it's always proper to plan ahead. And even if you're trying to plan ahead 3-5 years down the road, still keep your eyes open, take notes, look around and say, hey, who are these people? When are they available? What's going on with set contracts? Just to be safe. But I do feel that, even though I get what you're saying in terms of like age, but I hope Gary Cohen stays for a long time. That's all
I don't disagree with you. How's my signal, by the way? Is it weird? Is it doing some weird stuff?
You're only like freezing like a little bit, but I can still hear you from time to time. But it's only happened twice so far.
That's strange and annoying because my internet is supposed to be much better than it was at my last place. But everybody here.
I'm gonna move back. Go back.
Listen to me. It's Spectrum internet, so you never do know, do you? Sometimes it works. Sometimes it just doesn't work at all because it's Spectrum and it's the worst. Anyway, I just wanted to make sure because I saw you make a weird face at me.
That sponsorship.
Like we're getting a Spectrum sponsorship. Jeez,
you never know.
No. So, whatever. We can just delete this episode. It doesn't matter. No, it's important to think about moving on. I think before you have to, right? If you don't think about it, that's how you wind up with like the worst booth in baseball, right? Like you'll not be prepared for when guys are ready to go. I think that's one thing that you always need to be, sort of aware of if you're, a team and you're trying to put this stuff together. Speaking of that, let's spend the last 12, 15 minutes or so on the other thing that has possible moving on potential, which is Carlos Beltran joining the Mets front office. He leaves the booth at the Yes Network where he was, quite frankly, not very good. He was fine. I think he would have gotten better if he wanted to stick with it, but I understand why. I think he's better as a leader. I think he's better, on the field or in the front office. He's going to be a special advisor to GM Billy Epler, which is a role he's held before. It's nice to have Beltran home. Rael's been kind of quiet in the comments over the last couple minutes, but I'm sure now's the time where she's going to chime back in, which is all good. But your thoughts on Beltran coming back a few months after he reportedly turned down the opportunity to be on Buck's staff?
I've said multiple times on this show that this was the one thing that I was truly hoping that Steve Cohen would eventually fix. And it was what I felt was the loss of probably, and we've talked about, the greatest signing from a free agent standpoint that the Mets have had in their history, in terms of what he also put out production wise for this team. And when you couple it in with the fact that he's on the Hall of Fame ballot, he got over 45% of the vote. He's trending in the right direction, God willing. With these people, you never know. Trending in the right direction. And I do feel that if he does get that call and says, Carlos Beltran, you are a Hall of Famer, I do believe that a Mets hat should be on that bust or that plaque, whatever. I do feel like that's what it should be. And I think it makes all the sense in the world that he is back where he truly belongs. And I get that he had, the Yankees highs and he was working at Yes. And, the whole thing originally when Boris tried to sell him to the Yanks for cheap. Also, like, the guy had a hell of a career here. He deserved to be here to right the wrongs that the Wilpons put forth. I know that there are some things. I did some digging because I was going to ask Rael, if she is still in the comments, I was going to ask her true hatred towards Carlos Beltran. And I think I might have an idea as to what it is, because I was looking up at some of Mark Healy's tweets over the last couple of days, because I know that he was someone that had mentioned some things about Beltran and Delgado from years back. So I was curious if that's where her hatred for the player came from. But for me, my favorite Met, I love Carlos Beltran. I love that he's back home. And whether this is something that is just to get him back into the organization because he belongs here, or if there is something in the long run where they see something front office related, on field related over the years to get accustomed to certain things, whatever it may be, I'm just ecstatic that the guy is back home.
Yeah, and Carlos Ramos saying Beltran will be a future manager of the Mets. And Shea following it up by saying, I'm just glad that former jilted Mets, for whatever reason, the Mets are reaching out to all of them to make amends and right wrongs, especially Beltran. Look, we've had people on this show. Shea. We've had people on this show. Howard Johnson said it. Mm-hmm. Turk Wendell said it.
Wendell said it, yeah.
Where they were like, oh, nobody talks to us. Nobody talked to us for the last 10 years. Nobody wanted, and like, with the case of Hojo, he was a big part of the organization for a very long time as a manager in the lower minors and as a hitting coach here. And, sometimes you get fired, things sour. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying I understand how maybe that could happen. Mm-hmm. But, with Turk Wendell, like, what the hell did Turk Wendell ever do to anybody? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
He was just Turk. He was just Turk being Turk. So,
Too much money on black licorice.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting to see some of these people actually admit that and say, like, hey, look, we wanted to be back. I mean, Hojo said it at the Queens Baseball Convention this year. R.A. Dickey talked about it. They couldn't wait to get R.A. Dickey out the door. So I think so much of this is important. It's nice to see them right the wrongs. I don't know if I 100% agree with Carlos on the Beltran will be a future Met manager. I just think it's too early to tell. I think something is in the offing with Beltran. Like you said, either a high-level front office position, either, maybe it's manager. I think it's too soon to tell. But I think more baseball people who were great baseball players, who have great baseball minds, the way Beltran does. And I don't want to hear about banging on cans and cheating. I don't care. I'm sorry. If that's your hill you want to die on, that's fine. I don't care about it. He could bang on drums, gongs, trash cans. I don't care. He could do whatever he wants. To me, that doesn't diminish who he was as a player, and it doesn't diminish who he is as a leader and a veteran and somebody who knows baseball. He's a student of the game. They took advantage of something. Should they have done it? No. But did they get away with it? Yeah. Like, it is what it is to me. So I'm happy he's back. I'm happy that the Mets, like a lot of people are saying, Ibby, have, looked to their past and realized that we have a legitimate past that is worthy of being celebrated. I think oftentimes people look at it and they say, oh, wow, the Mets aren't the Yankees, or the Mets aren't the Giants, or the Knicks, or a team with all this legacy. But you know what? We've had stars. We've had success. We should be celebrated. And Shea said this earlier. I'm excited to see how Cohen will update the area for Joan Payson, which the Wilpons got wrong badly. First owner, and they need to rectify that. And it's true.
Yeah.
You know, there's like an entranceway. It just says Payson.
Yeah, it was terrible.
It's terrible, dude. Awful. And also, when you realize, like, the fact that she was the owner of the Mets at a time when women didn't own, like that's what do we do that in and of itself should be celebrated. Forget about the fact that, you know, it's your landmark owner and one of the first people in your franchise's history. Just, it's wild to me that that can't be, that Wilpons would be like, they just like wrote it on a board and we're like, yeah, we did it. Like, oh, fuck off. Yeah. Fuck off, Wilsons.
Right.
Tired of you, Wilsons.
Yeah. Just, yeah, but to bring it back to Beltran for a second, it was like, I'm looking at some of the comments and I'm seeing Carlos's, which, ooh, I just hit that. Yeah, I did that. Now, just looking at this comment here, it's like, I'm not against it, Carlos. Like, I think that if he had a choice, 1000%, he would much rather be on the field than wearing a suit every day and sitting in an office. Like, I do agree that he'd much rather be on the field. I just think it might be a little bit too early at this point to say 100% that it's going to be that, especially when you have the likes of potentially Eric Chavez. Like, a bunch of things can happen over the next handful of years. And from the looks of it, I don't think Buck's trying to really slow down.
No, it doesn't seem like it, which is good for us.
Which is great, yeah.
James Dowling says something feels like the Wilsons just didn't care. And
they didn't care.
They didn't. I think that's fair. I think they cared. Okay, I think Jeff is a moron. I think Fred Wilpon cared in his own way. I think Fred Wilpon cared about owning a National League team in baseball. I think Fred Wilpon cared about connectivity to the Dodgers, the team that he grew up, with, and the Koufax stuff. And he couldn't own the Dodgers, so he owned the Mets. And I think that was close. I think Fred wanted to win, but not at any cost, clearly. When you had Fred Wilpon and George Steinbrenner being owners at the same time, you could see the disparity right there. So I think Fred cared in his own way, but I don't think he cared the way that fans care. And sometimes maybe that's unfair to ask of an owner, but not across the board. And I think what happens, though, is that we were rewarded, all of us Mets fans were rewarded in our fandom and our patience and our frustrations, because now we have an owner who not only is the richest, not only has the best of everything, but he cares like we care. And so it's a complete 180. It's a total like flipping of the coin, turning over to the cool side of the pillow from what we had before. We didn't just go and get a better owner who's more effective at being an owner. We went from an owner who, in a lot of people's minds, yours included, said didn't care, was apathetic, to an owner that cares so fucking much that he's like, yeah, I mean, I don't care. I'll spend more money than anybody's ever spent on building a baseball team. And you want to cry about it? Cry about it. What are you going to do? I'll buy your team. I don't give a shit. I'll go buy the Oakland A's. I'll make them the AAA affiliate. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's just, I guess, like, when it comes to them and my thought process of them caring and not knowing what their words, the limited times they actually chose to speak, like, it carried weight. And I don't think they really ever truly understood that, Fred included, because I always come back to the article that was written way back in, what was it now? 05? Maybe it was during it was somewhere between 05 and 08, during those spans with those teams, where Fred came out and he basically said David Wright wasn't a winner, wasn't a star player, ripped on Jose Reyes, ripped on Carlos Beltran, saying that he wasn't worth the money, which he, basically called him like a sunk cost, like all this nonsense and stuff like that really, really pissed me off as a fan, because I'm like, these guys are really good ball players. Your job as an owner is to put them in positions to succeed, put the people that you put in charge to succeed and do things to try and win. And they weren't doing those things. Now, maybe that was like right on the heels of everything that was about to come out with the Madoff scandal and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But it was still stuff that always pissed me off, which is why I'll never have respect for either one of them. So when I see you post that picture with Fred Wilpon, it makes me want to throw my phone every freaking time. But it's okay. We have different experiences.
All I gotta say is,
oh, put the glasses down. I'm tired of them.
Sometimes when you get the opportunity to take a picture on Citi Field grass with the owner of the New York Mets, you have to take that opportunity, Ibby. And
nice name drop on the field.
Not everybody. When okay, let me rephrase that. When New York Mets third baseman Todd Frazier invites you to batting practice on the field, and you have the opportunity to meet the likes of Omar Minaya and Fred Wilpon and take pictures with them on the field.
Get the hook. Pull this
during
guy
batting
off.
practice. You know, you just these are moments in time that you just have to embrace. I feel like I look like Lenny Kravitz right now, and I don't know if that's good or bad.
The denim and that.
I guess I gotta know. Are you gonna go my way? That's what I.
Oh my god! I was gonna give you more credit because I've been like binge watching Yellowstone lately, so I was gonna say you looked like Rip Wheeler, one of the main characters. But now that you say Lenny Kravitz, I'm like, yeah, you look exactly like Lenny Kravitz.
I just need like the biggest scarf you could find. Like I need like a scarf that would fit a giant, and I just need to wrap it around my neck like 875 times. It's big time Lenny Kravitz vibes. Okay, so we got Carlos Ramos saying, "Oh no, Ibby is gone. I don't know what happened to Ibby. Oh no, your audio's still here, but now fans have no choice but to look at me and my fuse box on the wall. But you're still here, so don't worry about it."
Perfect.
Stevie Mack saying Lenny Kravitz Mets cologne commercial. Shay shouting out Tom's Rivers' own Todd Frazier. Ibby's back.
I'm back.
Just like that, he is back. But no, seriously, we'll end on this one because I think it's a good point. And just to take it back, this and then one other thing. Carlos saying Cohen righted one wrong by retiring Mays' number. And Ibby, what I wanted to say to you before I went into that weird comedy bit I just did was, the Wilpons couldn't get it right on the field. We all know that. You do, I do, everybody listening, watching all knows that. It's easy to just pander. Like people wanted Mays' number retired. Just do it. People wanted Payson acknowledged. Just do it. People wanted the walls blue. Just do it. Paint the Shea Bridge fucking orange. Just do it. Yeah. It's like a couple cans of paint. If you're not going to pay for fucking Vladimir Guerrero, paint the fucking wall, dude. Right. Like, it's so easy to just paint the wall.
The smallest things.
Like, dude, you want to, I don't know. The Mets, we can't retire Willie Mays' number because he only played here for one season. And he's one of the greatest players of all time. He played there on a year where they went to the World Series. I understand he's a shell of his former self at that point, but like, dude, nobody's going to be like, who we're acknowledging too much? Willie Mays. Shut up. Well, acknowledge Willie Mays. Who gives a shit? Make people happy. If you don't want to commit, just do that. And it's easy. It's just such an easy payoff to be like, oh, you know what? Ibby wants me to stop posting pictures of me and Fred Wilpon. I'll make him happy. I'll just stop posting the picture. I don't need to post it every week. I'll put it on the Till Mets Do Us Part Twitter account, though, coming up when we're done recording.
Oh, don't you dare. I'm deleting it.
I'm going to be like, Ibby has co-signed this. No, I'm just kidding. So I don't know what my energy is about today, dude. I don't know if this is better for the show or worse for the show, but my energy is all over the fucking place today.
Nah, it's a good thing. You know what? It's a week off and you're pumped up to be back. That's what it is.
I'm also starving and I'm thinking about this thing of cashews I have in the cupboard, but I can't eat them on the live stream. That's just like so ridiculous. I feel like Mike Francesa.
I was going to say more like Trey Carton eating on there.
Yeah, that's true. So here's what I wanted to end on. This is the point. Shay saying, do you think we'll see Beltran's presence at spring training this year or more behind the scenes? Or I'll add the extra caveat, Ibby, or is it too early because it's all just been done?
I think it's kind of early to kind of tell which way it might go. If he's willing and if he's willing to travel, like I don't know people's travel schedules, what they have planned or anything like that, but if he's willing to go there and teach, I would love to see him there, especially now in the early going when a lot of these guys, a lot of the leaders of this team, like the entire infield pretty much is going to be at the World Baseball Classic. So you're going to have a lot of young kids there. So it's like, I think seeing a player like that, of that stature, of that caliber, coming in and teaching, look at that handsome man. He looks so good. Oh, Brielse's there. She is. There she is. I hope that he is there. to I hope he is there to really lay down the baseball knowledge that he has, whether it's helping a player understand what it's like being in New York, or just understand the game in general and helping with the small things such as, playing the outfield or an approach at the plate. Having him there, such a good looking man. Having him there would be a positive, regardless of what Rael says, for this team.
I agree with that. I think your point on the World Baseball Classic and a lot of veterans leaving is spot on. Look, Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer aren't going to the World Baseball Classic. Why? Because they're 170 years old combined and they don't want to do that. So I think the rotation is going to be set. Plus, it's mostly veterans outside of Kodai Senga. So, and even he in his own right is a veteran, but obviously not a veteran here in the States. So I think the rotation, the pitching staff, I think all that stuff is going to be sorted. I think all that stuff is going to be, it's going to take care of itself from a pitching perspective, from a rotation perspective. But when you look at the entire infield leaving, you look at, some of the outfielders going and playing in the WBC, I think you have a guy who knows baseball as well as Carlos Beltran, get him out there. Look, and I don't think, and now that he's a full-fledged member of the organization, and Ibby, if the rumors are true, where Buck asked him to be on the staff, that means that him and Buck already have a good enough relationship where he's not going to feel like he's stepping on toes. In that case, right. I think everything's going to be all sorted and copacetic. And I think Carlos Ortiz said he'll be there with a big smile. I do love that Rael says, Ibby, watch yourself, as like, I'm the heel for everybody else except for Rael. You're right. The heel for Rael.
Like, I'm the bad guy here.
Yeah, it's you.
All because I like the guy. Rael, if you did you hear the question I said to you before? I wasn't sure if you were still in the chat. Just wondering exactly what moment or what caused the hatred for Beltran. I assumed it was like based off of the Mark Healy stuff that he posted about Beltran and the clubhouse stuff with Delgado. I was curious if that's where your original, harboring of this anger came from.
It's probably what it is, honestly. While we wait for her to respond, Carlos Ramos said, guys, ask Lindor who he was talking to during his mega slump. He was on the phone every day with Carlos Beltran and gave him credit for snapping out of it. Beltran is good for us all the way around. I think, again, stuff like that is just good points, man. Like, you have a lot of, when you have that much experience, when you have that failure and then the success, like, you look at Lindor and there's a lot that happened to Carlos Beltran in year one that happened to Lindor in year one. And, I think all of that is important. It can't be taken for granted. Yeah. Rael saying he was a diva clubhouse divider between the team and the Los Mets. So, there was a lot of that was made with Paul LaDuca saying that, there was two clubhouses. It was the Spanish speaking players and everybody else. And, I think Tony Bernazard probably had more of an influence on that if I had to pick, because Tony Bernazard seems like he was an out for self kind of guy, even as much as he wanted to stab.
Tony Bernazard was taking his shirt off trying to fight minor leaguers. He was a problem in himself.
Tony Bernazard was trying to fuck over his best friend who got him the job in Omar Minaya. Like, Omar thought Tony was like his right-hand man, and really it was like, E2 Brutus. Like, it was it was the fucking Ides of March out there. Like, this motherfucker was out there like doing anything to like, he was trying to put his own stamp. He wanted to be GM. He was like, I'll fire Willie Randolph, and then we'll get Jerry Manuel, and then we'll fire Jerry Manuel into the sun. God. And then, like, it was just like, Tony Bernazard, I think, was the one that pushed that divide line, honestly. And Carlos Ramos, we don't want to start beef. The only beef.
No beef. No beef.
Okay,
we're having fun here.
This is a squash beef episode, okay? Jenny came in the fucking show. And he still might be here. I have no idea. Grant might still be here.
He might still be here.
This is a squash beef kind of episode, okay? It's a new apartment, and I'm not bringing that negative energy because I don't know where to buy sage, okay? I'm not bringing that shit to my new apartment. I know I can buy sage because I live in Los Angeles, and I'm probably sure I could buy it at the grocery store. I'm just saying, we're squashing all beefs. We're not starting new ones today.
Now that you mentioned it, I wanted to make sure before we left here at all, if Grant is still here, I don't know if he is, but if he is,
Before you bring up that point, I just want to say, Rail says I love Carlos, and Carlos saying no beef. Okay.
All right, perfect. No beef, no sage. Don't gotta waste money. Good. I just wanted to ask if Grant is still here. Did you know that we were being mentioned in those comments for that podcast, and then you didn't mention us? Like, I'm just curious. I'm asking in good fun. If you are still here, did you see that people were mentioning us, and you mentioned all the other shows, but then didn't mention our show?
Wow.
Simple question.
Wow.
Simple question. That's it. That's all.
It's inquiring minds do want to know. And by inquiring, I mean me and Ibby mostly, and the handful of people that are fans of our show. So.
And shout out to the people that really put us over on the Tim Healy post. Thank you so much for that. That kicked ass. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I do appreciate that. By the way, I've been trying to get Tim Healy on this show. I've met him twice at the past 2 Queens baseball conventions. He was like, absolutely, I'll come on the show. And then we can't.
Were you wearing the sunglasses?
I was not wearing the sunglasses. I was dressed very professionally. And I promise. Okay, we got to get out of here in a minute. Shay saying, when we get to the ends of these shows now, when we used to record and not record live, we get to the end of our topics and we would just like be done and we'd be like, all right, let's go. But now, like, it's just fun. I just want to keep talking to you guys. I just want to go. Like, I have nothing to do for the rest of the day. I'm good. I could stay here all day and do this. So that's probably, it seems sad if I say I have nothing to do for the rest of the day. Shay saying, I'm sorry I didn't help with the IKEA, John. Hopefully we can squash that beef. You know what?
Squashing all beefs.
We're squashing all. We're taking care of all family. We're settling all family business today on Till Mets Do His Part. This is the Godfather episode of Till Mets Do His Part. Rael saying, we love you guys. Hojo loves you too. That's true. Hojo did say he really enjoyed our podcast. He did say
Hojo was great.
Yeah. So anyway, look, let's get out of here in a minute. Mm-hmm. Carlos Ramos saying, damn, I really want that hat, Ibby. So the new beef is going to be over the hat.
I do love that Carlos is always putting over my hat. So thank you for noticing how I try to change it up a lot. So thank you for always giving my hat collection some love.
I do want to be honest with you about something. My hat might not seem like much. It's just a knit cap. However, I want to let you know that
we got to get the hell out of here.
I got this hat a few years ago when I went to a bachelor party in Iceland. And while I was there, I needed to get a knit cap because it's a little cold even in the springtime in Iceland. And that's where this hat is from. It's from.
Guys, if you didn't know, John travels a lot. He goes a lot of places. He meets a lot of people. He's in big time commercials. Hey, if you want a commercial of John, I forgot the name of it, but he's like cooking on some grill. He burns all the food. Find that one. That's a good one.
Yeah, Round Table Pizza. Round Table Pizza. It's like a Domino's Papa John's. It's a West Coast brand. It did hurt my soul because they made me wear a George Kittle jersey because they're based out of San Francisco and it was for like doing tailgating and all this stuff and barbecuing during football season. And they're like, would you wear this Kittle jersey? And I was like, oh God, like, I guess so, because like, it's just for the character. And like, but if it was a Pats jersey, I would have said no. Like if it was, if they were like, could you wear this Tom Brady jersey? I'd be like, no, I can't.
So you would have pulled the Ben Affleck where they were like, wear this Yankee hat. He's like, yeah, no, I'm not wearing a Yankee, but you got to be a New York fan. It's like, I'll wear a Met hat.
I would have done that. I would have like there's a couple things I won't wear. Pat stuff, Brave stuff, Philly stuff. I won't do it. I absolutely cannot do it. It will not.
We all got to have a line. We all got to have a line somewhere.
Yeah, and for I was gonna mention another commercial thing that I did for social media because it's kind of embarrassing. It'll humble me. I once did a bunch of still shots for it's called Rex MD. Okay. And they are they're kind of like hymns. So it's like erectile dysfunction medicine. So listen. Sometimes you're in Apple Music and sometimes you're in whatever, sometimes you're doing that. That's how it goes. That's the
John's
business.
Doing gas station pills. It's okay.
That's the business, baby. Okay. Oh my God. I think I just stumbled upon it. James Dowling said this episode has gone off the rails. Hollywood really John needs an ending catchphrase now. And I think that's the business, baby.
And there it is.
This is so stupid. This is so dumb. I hate everything that I just did, but I feel like people are going to enjoy this. So
yes.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, this has been a lot of fun. Maybe it's always fun recording with you. If you want to quit the show before next week, I completely understand.
I wouldn't say that.
Okay. You know what? And maybe we can get Grant on the show. Maybe that'll be fun. I don't know. Maybe it would.
I don't want to put pressure on him. I did invite him. I told you a while back, said he wasn't a big podcast guy, but the invite's still there. If he wants to come on, talk about the page, talk about different stuff, the invite's there if he wants it.
Okay. Maybe I'll reach out. Maybe we'll have a conversation. We'll see if we can squash it. We can fully squash it on air. I know he was here, and in all seriousness, whatever reason why he came on, whether it was just to poke fun or to try to bridge the gap, I do appreciate it. I do. I think it's a cool
funny
move. All the interactions were great. I can dish it out, but that's the other thing. I can fucking take it. So, listen, it comes with the territory. Anyway, Ibby, anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Well, have a good week, everyone. Enjoy the Super Bowl, because once the Super Bowl is over, baseball is here and it's back, and Mets baseball is here, and we're going to have a lot of fun. And don't you worry, excuse me, that giveaway that I've been talking about, I'll give a little bit of a preview right now of exactly what it is. That giveaway is going to get posted within the next couple of days. I just got to figure out if we're going to do a video for it or not. Just trying to make sure it coincides properly with YouTube and Twitter. But we talked about him today, so if you want to get your hands on a little bit of Keith Hernandez merchandise, you get an idea.
That is signed, too. That's a good one.
Yes, that is signed. So, yes, it is signed. It's also verified. It's got the little thing there. So that will be posted at some point for people to try and win. We're going to basically try and grow our YouTube channel with subs. So that's what we're going to do, and hopefully we can really make it work.
I can verify because I have several autographed Keith Hernandez items.
Show's over. Cut it.
That is an authentic. You don't need the certificate of authenticity, because I have 2 items in my possession that Keith Hernandez signed for me personally, and I watched him do it.
Show.
I know. I can't stop. Anyway, I have not 1 but 2 items that he had signed for me personally, and so I can verify that is in fact the signature of the legendary Keith Hernandez. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the episode. John Sapanaro, Matt Ibby Ibanez, Till Mets Do Us Part, live on Twitter, live on YouTube. Please ignore me. He's great. Hit the like button if for no other reason than Ibby. Subscribe, turn your notifications on. Mm-hmm. And of course, if you couldn't watch us live, you can watch us as soon as the episode is over, which is going to be any second over on our YouTube channel, or you can wait till tomorrow and listen to the audio version of this show, wherever it is you get your podcast. And all I got to say is, that's the business, baby.